Good morning. On today's WOTWIP and Coffee, I am going to be doing a little bit of knitting. I did pull this, decided I am going to finish it. I had looked at it before and thought, no, I'm not going to, but I am going to. This is a pattern by Mama in a Stitch, I think is the name. It's the comfiest knitting garment. So finally found the pattern. So I am going to just knit here and thought we would chat a little bit. I don't know, this week's convention at the DNC, I watched the RNC, I watched most of the DNC, but I gotta tell you, I've never seen so much lies coming out of the DNC. We know you don't like Trump. Why on earth did you have to go on a tyrant rant about it? Who cares that you don't like him? Seriously, man, most of everything that you were talking about him about were total lies. I actually came to the DNC convention, come to the RNC convention to hear what those plans that they have for America are. Did I get to see that with the DNC? Very little. I think it's interesting that they made this mention that John Legend was going to be there and Beyonce. Try to get people to watch. I don't know, people. Sad. But I'm just tired of all the angst. I sit here and I listened to a lot of it and I thought, you sound like a bunch of whiners. Instead of getting to work and doing things for this country, you sound like you're just doing a lot of whining about those things. And then, when Tim Waltz came to the stage with his family, what was that about, yanking his son? Yeah, we know he has some developmental issues. We know that he has ADHD. But that jerk was that of a kind of really an abusive parent. His family did not look happy at all to be there. So, I don't know, that was kind of scary. But, yeah, interesting family. I have had friends who are psychologists who have told me that from what they are viewing, they're seeing Waltz as being a very abusive type person. And I find that rather interesting. I do see those tendencies, but I also think that he really doesn't think a lot, that he's not a very smart man with some of his decisions. And then Kamala comes out in a black suit. What was that? Mourning for America? MOURNING. And some of the crap she spewed, I'm still confused about what her stance is and her policies are going to be. Because listening to it, again, we heard a bunch of lies, left and right. They kept bringing out the book 2025. It's not even written by Trump. He's not even one of the authors. That was a plan that's put out by Heritage Foundation, which they do every time there's an election year. Some of it's approved by some of the candidates, some of it's not. It's not the policies, it's not the things that Trump is running on. So, here you go, propagating a lie. But then again, if you've ever watched that video of Pelosi talking about putting a lie out there, making sure it's repeated in the media over and over and over again, to where eventually people believe that it's the truth. And I'm seeing that. I see that left and right with a lot of my Democrat friends. They wholeheartedly believe that nonsense. But has any one of them done any research into the other party's platform? No. So, and that's where I find fault with people today. You know, I'm the type of person, when there are elections, I want to know what each one of those candidates' stances are on the issues that we are facing. And so I go, I read, I look, I watch, I see all that kind of stuff. I've seen very little policy or issues that we as Americans are faced. They're actually coming out of the Harris-Walz party, their little platform, that addresses many of the issues. These are issues that many of them created themselves. You know, we used to be energy energy independent under Trump with what he did with gas, oil, drilling, all of that. We are now once again dependent on OPEC and nations who cannot stand us, who simply want our dollars. And do you think they give a flying flip how much they charge for that? No, they don't. And it shows in the way that they come together and choose their prices. And then what I thought was interesting is all the people that were up there talking about how people have to give up something for those who have little or nothing. Yet these are people that are worth multi-millions, and we haven't seen them give up any of theirs. I don't know, I just find it interesting. You know, I see where Trump, throughout all these years, has basically done what he has said he has done. He has completely put out his money out there. You know, he's constantly black leaders who could not get loans, business leaders, for their businesses would come to him for loans. Why? Because it was known that he would help them, give them a loan. He'd give them the loan, and when they would come back, get their businesses built, and want to give him a check to pay back that loan, he would ask him how their businesses were doing. They'd say, great, thank you so much for your help. And he would say, good. He'd tear up the check and tell him, you're good to go. Continue with your business and make it prosperous. So he's put his money behind businesses other than his own, you know? And then you have the whole idea of those, you know, those box seats. Sorry about that. Let me turn that off. Then you have all those box seats, and yes, it's both RNC, DNC, that go for $500,000 up to $150,000, so they can view the convention. I mean, seriously, all those filthy rich up there, and I'm gonna call them filthy, because are they putting their money back into the communities they live in? Very rarely. So you got to walk the walk for me and not just talk the talk. And I don't see that with many of those in that in the DNC party. I see them telling others to do it, but I don't see very many of them actually doing it. So it's just sad that we've reached a point like this. And once again, like I said, Trump was not my choice and is not my choice. However, I'm going to have to vote the lesser of two evils. And I've got to tell you, with everything, I don't know, but it just ticks me off. Harris with this plan to give $25,000 for non-citizens to help buy a home, I'm sorry, that pisses me off. Why don't you give that to homeless veterans? Why don't you give our American citizens who need a home, who are living homeless, that? But no, you're going to give that to people who are here illegally? We can't afford that. We need to take care of our own people. You know, there's a saying when you get on an airship or even a boat, one of the first things they tell you is, if the oxygen mask deploys or if there's an emergency, put on your life vest first, put on your oxygen mask first, and then help your other people who can't get theirs on. Why? Because they know that you're of no use, that you will become a problem if you cannot take care of your own first. Your own self. Then you can help others. I think we need to start doing that. So yeah, I'm a little worried about this whole thing. And I will continue to listen to both sides. I will continue to look into their policies. You know, that's just the way I do before I vote. Like I said, the person I wanted didn't get in. And I will tell you, that person was Robert JFK Jr. I really liked what a lot that he was talking about, the platform he was running on, but apparently Americans didn't care for it. So yeah, I just, I'm not one that just party line. And I worry about those people that do vote just party line, because you've made that party your God, your idol, instead of taking care of the people around you. So, yeah, I have a little bit of an issue with that. And that is my rant for the day. Your opinion, of course, may differ, and you are more than welcome to share it below. You are more than welcome to disagree with me. I'm okay with that. We all have opinions. Okay. So what are you guys working on these days? Do you have something that you are looking at to finish or to project to start? I've decided I'm going to work on these two projects, mostly, at the moment. I will be working on my shirt that I was crocheting and had put aside in order to get some of these blankets out. And then, of course, I do also, once in a while, take those squares that I've been working on for Billy, the crafty Floridian. She's doing squares to make Boggy Creek blankets, and the ones that she are asking for are, I believe, 6 inches in Christmas colors. St. Patrick's Day and Halloween. And she has had she's made some really cute blankets, put together some cute ones with the squares that she's been getting. Not only that, but a lot of folks, and I encourage you to do so, are also sending just small appliques that can be put on the blankets. And let me tell you, that is a great way to use your scraps up. Just to make little scrap appliques that can be sewn onto the blankets, whatnot. So some of those are awful adorable. The one that I thought was the cutest was and she wasn't real sure what it was. She thought it might represent a rainbow. It was like a trapezoid shape in rainbow colors. But then also there was a pot of gold, and I think she had determined she'd put that rainbow and then the pot of gold at the bottom of it. So I did think that was rather interesting to see those. And of course you could make some regular rainbows, smiley faces, all kinds of things, ghosts, cats, witches brooms, cauldrons, same thing as a pot of gold without the gold. Maybe some of those things like the what are those orange, not orange candies, they're the little peanut butter ones, peanut butter chews, I think. You make little candies like that, candy corn, that could be put on the Halloween blankets. There's a lot that can be done for that. So don't be afraid to give it a shot. Do some of those things and, send them off to Billy if you can, or even make your own blankets with them. Or make a square, sew it onto a square, and then send those off to Billy. Lynn Ann is doing 5-inch squares, I believe. So there's that. You do have the options of sending your blankets, completed blankets, to Nancy, as she's got yarn too, or to Juan, whichever is closer and is a little cheaper for your budget to send that way. I think they're hoping that they can get 2025 blankets. So hopefully, through the help of all of you and them, we can get that. And I don't remember what I think Laura had done a double dog dare, but I think her double dog dare was actually just to make a Boggy blanket and send it to one of those people. Because they were reminding her about her double dog dare and where she was in what she called granny hell, because, she doesn't really like making granny squares, supposedly. And she put that challenge out to send 17 squares to Lynn Ann, and she would do 3 squares for each package of 17. You guys answered greatly. Put her in that hell. And of course, it overwhelmed Lynn Ann. She's still working on many of those squares. Fitting those together. Lynette of Charmed Grammy Crochet, she does not want blankets at this time because not only is she in the process, I believe she's already had her surgery to have knee replaced, but she's also retiring and they're also looking to move. So I don't blame her for not collecting blankets, but she is there to cheer us all on and to give us ideas, those kind of things with the blankets. Ooh, excuse me. So, if you are inclined to work on a Boggy blanket, I believe they are, I have to find the dimensions that are suggested. I believe they are 30 by 40 or 40 by 50. I believe those are the dimensions that they're wanting. And just remember, these are normally kids that get these blankets. Try to make them cheerful, something that you think maybe a teen would want or a small child. Teens can be somewhat difficult to determine what they like because teens are teens. But it doesn't go without saying that if you do, let's say, like if that blanket that I'm doing with the blues and whatnot, there's no indication that a teen wouldn't appreciate that or love that blanket. So you just have to do what you need to do and help out different causes if you can. If you cannot, do not worry about it. There are plenty of places near you that you could most likely donate. So consider doing that if you can. So yeah, that is just something, we all need to consider doing. If you can't, don't worry about it. There are ways that you can help your community out without sending a blanket off to Boggy Creek. And of course, this organization, Boggy Creek, is located in Florida. But the organization that was built by Paul Newman and General Schwarzkopf, they have camps all around the United States that do the same thing that Boggy Creek does. Now, Boggy Creek, I believe, is one of those few ones that is open year-round. I think some of the other ones go by seasons. I'm sure a lot of them are not open during winter, but they may be open during spring and summer and early fall, not late fall. But look in your area. You can probably go to Paul Newman's organization and find that information for some of these camps. Just Boggy Creek is one of those that can be open year-round simply because it's in Florida. I mean, the only thing that would close down this camp would be a hurricane, most likely. So they do service a lot of people throughout the year, a lot more than some of the other ones do. But it is a great way to use up a lot of your scraps, to help others that are in need. So, it's something to consider if you can afford it. If you cannot, do not fret. There are things you can do in your own community. Sometimes we have to look around to see if we can find those things in our own community that we can help. And sometimes it's just a matter of reaching out. Look to see if you have local prayer shawl ministries that you can donate to, or even if your homeless shelters will take many of your things that you put out there. Several of ours, more than often, welcome the hats, scarves, those kind of things, most especially in the winter. I do know here that many times in the winter, if you contact the local food pantry, many times they will take those on the day of distribution so they can hand those out to the folks as needed. And of course, there are a lot of us all support different organizations. Rose Does Wings, which is a domestic violence organization that deals with the aftermath of that for the families that are getting out of those domestic abuse situations. If you can donate there, you can. She does have a list. It's a monthly list of what they want. If I remember correctly, what's coming up is the hats and scarves. I think you can only send 2 adult sets, but they do want as many children's sets as possible. They do have a lot of children that go through there. So that is something else that you can consider doing. Normally I would say you could probably get 3 hats and 3 scarves into a package, and it may cost you about $7 or $8 to send off. And that's depending on the region that you're at, because of course, if you use the post office, it goes by region, how much it costs to send it. So those are some things to look at. But there are other companies like Pirate Ship that sometimes will give you a cheaper rate than the post office for mailing labels, those kind of things. And you can figure out how much it's going to cost, to ship it to these different areas by asking to get the rate quotes. And you have to put in all the information, like the size of your package and the weight of your package, where you're sending it to, and it'll give you a quote for how much it's going to cost. So, use those kind of things. And I believe you can also, if I remember correctly, you can go to the USPS to get an estimate of what your package would cost if you know the dimensions and the weight of your package. So, there's that. The cats have been rather interesting. They always scatter when people come into the house. And I had Wednesday afternoon, the claims adjuster from the insurance company came, and he was here about maybe 2 hours. And of course, at first when he came, they hid, and then they started coming out, and they were kind of curious to watch what he was doing. He did go through, document, took all kinds of readings, the moisture level readings. They have a tool that can tell you the moisture reading levels, and oftentimes it can tell you if there is moisture behind the walls, that kind of thing. But like I said, he was here a long time, and I do see a lot of damage in the closet to the drywall. I didn't see as much damage behind the washing machine, which I thought was rather odd to those walls. And then the adjuster did find some damage in the garage in one of the corners to the drywall. So now my job is to find a contractor to determine, to get an estimate of what the cost is to repair everything. I think my deductible is $1,000, which, most homeowners' policies, that is what the deductible is. So some of you may have gotten a better rate. I looked around, tried to find a better rate, and this was the only one that I could find, and it's a pretty good company. And of course they do cover my sewing machines in that policy. It is written into the policy because of how much the machines are, and because I do use them in my side business. So they've included that cost if any damage were done to it. Of course, my machines are so far away from the damage that I don't have to worry about it. But still, it's good to know that those things could be replaced if something disastrous were to happen. Of course, when the adjuster came in, he said to me, "Your yard is full of deer." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. It's like that most of the day. Some days there are more, some days just a couple." I said, "I'm just grateful. For the most part, the bear does not come down this way. So I'm grateful for that." Boy, am I grateful. Who wants to walk out there and come face to face with a bear? My neighbor, when she was delivering the monitor for the sleep apnea test, she was telling me, she said, does the bear come down this far? I said, "I have not seen him. I've been told that he does come down this far, but I have not seen him yet, or seen it yet." And she said, I was putting away clothes the other day, looked out the window, and there was a bear. And I think she's just above me, if I remember correctly. So, of course, she lives more towards the center of the mountain than I do. I live on one of the side slopes of the mountain. So, I did think that was rather interesting. She said, I tried to find my phone to get a picture of it at least. And she said, by the time I got my phone out and ready, it was walking off into the woods. So, yeah. I said, well, maybe one of these days you'll catch that bear. But yeah, that's one of the things I love about this area is because of the amount of the wildlife. And there's nothing more amazing than to see deer grazing in your yard. I'm sorry, that is just amazing to watch them. They're such graceful looking animals. Now I do find it funny they get spooked so easily. But we were also talking about the fact that the deer like music. I said, yeah, and it doesn't matter what kind of music. They seem to come around when I'm playing music and they can hear it through the windows or whatever. I said, what I find interesting is, though, like lots of times, I listen to Family Life radio a lot when I don't have CDs in there playing. But, Family Life, I think from maybe it's noon to 3, they have different programs that are discussion programs or teaching programs or to talk about someone's program to help others. They do not enjoy that. In fact, during that time, if I have that on, they move through pretty quickly. But if I've got music playing, then they will just graze as slowly as possible. And it's kind of fun to watch. They do go after the clover the most, which I do find interesting. Wish they'd eat that bamboo, though, but they don't. They don't really care for the barnyard grass. I do see them eating weeds occasionally, but for the most part, they go after the clover and such. Of course, the cats love to get up there. Right now, they've been sitting on the boxes and totes that are ready to be moved. They have been enjoying doing that. And they just sit and watch the deer. They talk to them. Kitty cats have that little language, like they're trying to figure out what's going on. Well, that was done wrong. So, yeah, find that interesting. And when the plumber came, he found that the actual problem was a cracked drain pipe on my washing machine. And it was such a small crack, he had trouble finding it. So he did move the machine around, and finally did see the crack where it was leaking. And so I just replaced the drain pipe, tightened it up, and now I'm back in business as far as doing my laundry again. But I'm still waiting on a contractor. Got to call out to several contractors for, to get an estimate. And I was told by the insurance company I only need one estimate. And they'll work with that. So, Times are just it's just a blast, isn't it? And I had asked him why the drain pan under the washing machine didn't catch that water. He said it wouldn't, the way that the crack was in the pipe. It bypasses, because the way you have the drain pans under it is basically to catch the water that comes from the machine itself, like right at the connection of where the drain pipe is. He said, but where the crack was past that pipe, the pan, so there was no way for that pan to even catch it. Like, figures, you know? So anyway, and I will tell you, I had an issue because you don't normally, you go through your agent that is local to get the adjusters to come out and in order to file a claim. When I'd first called him, he was like, well, I don't see why we should file a claim on this, which kind of ticked me off. And so he's like, you need to wait for the plumber. I'm like, well, by the time that the plumber comes, we could have already gotten the adjuster to come out following him. But, he didn't want to do that. And I'm like, goodness. So I waited till after the plumber came, then called the insurance company Thursday. Not Thursday. Plumber came Tuesday, called the insurance company Wednesday. And of course, I didn't get him because he was busy on another line. So I did get his wife, which I prefer dealing with her anyway. Told her the issue. Told her what the problem was. She got it all handled. And of course, the claims adjuster came out that afternoon. And he had to drive 2 hours to get here. So, and he did tell me, he said, yeah, the policy will have to pay out on this because there is so much damage to it. And I'd asked him, I said, I'm curious as to why it just showed up like all at once. When I had the issue with the air conditioner and the heating system pump, of course, I could see a lot of that damage almost right away on that back wall in the bathroom. It wasn't the wall, it's the baseboards. And the baseboards are no big deal because I can always just sand it down and repaint those. But I'd asked him, I said, why is it that it took so long for this to start showing? He said, I have no idea. He said, I think maybe because of the way that the water was a little bit at a time, instead of a big amount like what I had. Because I had buckets of water that I was cleaning up out of this mess. That maybe that was the difference, because it was just a little bit at a time. And he said, these kind of things, you don't see them sometimes until weeks later. And he said, so what gave you the first discovery? I said, well, I kept smelling what I called water in the air, but I couldn't see, I couldn't smell a smell that there was any mildew growing or anything like that. I could just smell like humidity, water in the air, and I kept trying to figure out what it was. I said, but the other day I was moving things, to pack up things in the closet, and I happened to see the baseboard completely clear enough to see all that water damage. And I knew it wasn't coming from the toilet. I said, but the only other thing I could think of was either the laundry room or the outside spigot, because they're both on that wall. I said, so I looked, couldn't find a thing. And other than there was a little bit of that staining that comes, water staining on the baseboards. And he said, well, that's usually the way it's found, is it's found, days, weeks after. He said, there's no telling how long this has been going on. He said, it may have been just going on for the past week. And I said, well, I think I smelled it about a week and a half ago, where I can really remember I smelled what I thought was water. I said, but I moved the dryer, I moved the washer as far as I could, didn't see any water, standing water, So, who knows? Of course, by then the water may have been absorbed behind the wall, the baseboards, whatever. So there was no standing water. But yeah, that's what's going on there. It will be repaired eventually. Like I said, I've got to call out to a couple of contractors to get estimates. And I think then it'll be all taken care of. I had someone ask me the other day if that's going to ruin the chances for the sale of the house. I said, well, I doubt it, because we're going to work on getting those repairs, before the house is sold. So, and apparently, according to what the adjusters tells me, it's a fairly somewhat easy repair, Let's hope so. At least I'm hoping it is. Of course, I'm sure it's going to be a pain in the butt. But gotta be done. Part of life. All right, folks, I think I've chatted on, whined enough, and whatnot. Hope you enjoyed this little bit. I enjoy talking with you, even if it's rants or whatever. But like I said, we all have opinions, and sometimes I feel like it needs to be said. So yeah, I am going to say it. And if you can't handle it, then I guess you need to not watch it. I will put a disclaimer that I have a bit of a rant, and that way you'll know whether you want to watch it or not. All right, guys, that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you again next week for another WOTWIP and Coffee. And I had someone that had posted a comment about stop the CAP, all in capital letters. Nope, not going to do it. But have a great day anyway. See you guys soon. Bye.